Welcome to WTF, Ways to Freedom podcast show, where we explore all areas that bring freedom in state of mind, body, and spirit. Sit back, open your mind, and take a journey with your host, Ishangi.
Discover the world of STEAM with Ishangi's engaging online course. From Slaveships to STEAM.Ships. STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, fields that drive innovation and creativity. Perfect for families age 13 to 75. This course brings these disciplines to life through history, hands-on projects, interactive lessons, and real-world applications. You'll explore robotics, coding, art integration, and more, all from the comfort of your home. Sign up today and reignite the creative genius inside for every generation. Visit CryptoWokeMovement.com for details. This summer, unlock your potential with our summer workshop. Join our dynamic online courses, designed for everyone aged 13 to 75, starting June 1st through August 3rd with Ishangi of the CryptoWoke Financial Sustainability Movement. Dive into financial education for adults or gear up for success with financial education for student athletes. Teens and young adults can build their financial future, and everyone can explore the wonders of STEAM. For just $149.99, you get access and can invite 3 friends or family members to join you or choose their own course. That's for people for one low price. Workshops start June 1st and run through August 3rd. Sign up now and invest in your future.
Welcome to WTF, Ways to Freedom podcast show, where we explore all areas that bring freedom in state of mind, body, and spirit. Sit back, open your mind, and take a journey with your host, Ishangi.
Yo, yo, yo. Peace, peace, everybody. Peace and blessings to the family. Hoping everyone is well. We are back at it on Tuesday, May 21st, 2024. We are getting our groove going on right now. We're actually doing our 6th episode. This is our 3rd week. Really, really loving the vibe that's been happening and the growth and just the learning and all that kind of stuff. And I hope that you as well have been enjoying the ride. I give thanks for you for tuning in, whether you are tuning in now live or you're going to catch the replay. I give thanks for you taking time amidst all other things that you could be doing, for you to take time out and visit me and listen to me run my mouth for an hour or so. It does my heart, makes me feel warm inside. So I give thanks for you taking the time out to tune in with me tonight. Hoping your weekend was great. We're approaching Hump Day already, approaching the end of the month. Summer is upon us, so I'm excited about the warmer weather and all that kind of stuff. So again, we're here to just show information, show love, and try to get this I would say this. I would look at it like a balance, an alternative, as far as what we see on the internet, trying to provide some balance here amidst all of the chaos that we might see in our feeds and in our algorithms. That we try to bring some new information in, or some ancient information that you may or may not know about, that will help us to build and continue to elevate ourselves. So if you are chiming in, I always say this too, when you come in, feel free. The chat is open. If you'd like to tell me where you're hailing from, I really appreciate just knowing that you're here to get the vibe going on. Even though this is virtual, we're still connecting. So feel free to come in and put in the chat where you're chiming in from, what state and city. And also, as you come in, just to get this out the way, and it helps me again to build this channel, is if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and smash that like button as soon as you come in, so it's done. We ain't got to worry about it. And then hopefully, then I can earn that like throughout tonight's episode. So this is what's going on, y'all, today. As you know, with WTF, Ways to Freedom podcast show, we talk about things that are in the space of wanting us to, spend some time on learning about more about where we come from, learn about current events, and then learn about also where we're going with this information. And I felt like tonight's episode really fits that because really where we're at right now is, we're in a space right now where getting, becoming aware in this information age, it's like a track race. It's so much going on. Greater sister Ami, give thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you always. So we're in a space now where information, we're in the information age, just said. And what that means is that the floodgates of information has been open. And with that, there's information and there's disinformation. You know what I mean? So, although there's truth being exposed, there's also a bunch of other things to kind of keep you from getting into the truth, and that is being able to understand what's going on, you know what I mean, in the world. And so trying to compete, trying to stay relevant, it's an ever going grind. And it's even more so now because some people are taking advantage of the information and they're utilizing it well enough for their families, for even their ethnic backgrounds to prosper. And I find that we again are at the end of the race. Some of us didn't even show up with our track shoes on. Some of us got on some S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S or even some stilettos, and trying to think that we can run this race called life, and getting this information and applying it towards creating sustainability. So I thought tonight it would be befitting to speak about how there has been a lack. Well, I think one of the reasons why we are at the snail pace in regards to emancipation, in regards to entrepreneurship in a real way, not a hustle and bustle, mom and pop type of thing or a side job, but a really, really robust global impact infrastructure in regards to entrepreneurism. And the reason why I think we're in that space is because we have not seen enough examples of us doing this before. If you go back into the archives, you can go back and see the very first episode. I talked about how we were programmed to be mediocre. And it talks about how we've been programmed to not think highly of ourselves without saying it. It's just the fact that they've shown us examples of everyone else. And when you see examples of everyone else and you don't see yourself, it has a psychological impact on you. To a degree, you feel like, damn, like they're really getting it. And I want to get it too. But in this world that we know we're living in, we don't know how to go about doing it because we don't have any of those examples. And if we do, we get one sprinkled here and there. And then there's the sharing and or the lack of sharing, I would say. And then we have to deal with the crabs in the barrel, where some folks, some ninjas out here feel like, well, if I made it, you have to make it just like I did. And, I'm not really going to pull a line to tow you up with me. But again, I'm not making excuses. The point is that I think the lack of exposure, the balance is needed. And that's what really got me into wanting to get into this topic tonight about STEAM. STEAM, when you think about it, if you have children, that STEAM is becoming a hot topic if it isn't already. It's probably just becoming in certain Black school districts, but, in other ethnic backgrounds, those school districts, they've been dealing with STEAM for a very long time. And so, again, we're late to the game. Nevertheless, it's still exciting. And it made me want to get involved with it because although I'm out of school, I think that this is probably one of the most exciting forms of continuing education that you could ever experience. And the reason why I say it is because knowledge should never end when they say, oh, you got certified, you got no certifications, or you got your degrees. You're going to continue learning. You should be. You should have aspirations to do so, especially if you're trying to be independent or sustainable, self-sufficient. You want to be able to stop that hand that's feeding you and be able to feed yourself. So STEAM to me is really that topic that it's a broad topic. STEAM is an acronym, stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And so when you think about that, you think it from a scholastic academic perspective, but it's actually a way of life. And that's what really got me involved in wanting to talk about this is to share with you that not only have I jumped in both feet in this topic, but I've created a curriculum that is applicable to all ages, 13 to 75, or really even lower than that, really, to be honest, who could start as early as grade school, because again, it's a lifestyle. And so tonight, what I wanted to do was I wanted to share just an overview, just to share some nuggets about what I teach uh, in my course of STEAM. And of course, if you know anything about me, you know I'm going to put an African twist to it, right? So, as you saw, the title is From Slave Ships to Steamships. And the reason why I came up with that title was because I felt like, again, there's no example. And of the examples we have of our contributions or experiences here, especially in the Americas, they start, basically in Jamestown, Virginia, 1619, right? So our history starts with slavery, and every February we're gonna put some emphasis on who we are as far as knowledge of our history, but it's gonna be the same folk. No disrespect to them, but the Frederick Douglasses and the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's, but nothing more than that. And really, very, very rarely will we leave the shores and go abroad and learn about a Stephen Biko or a Santawa or a Patrice Lumumba or any of those folks that have contributed to the well-being of people of diasporic Africa. So uh, I felt that STEAM to me it was a gateway or segue rather to looking at, if you love history as I do, and as Asa Hilliard talked about, when you study history doing in chronological order, you also look for the African presence, what was going on during that time period. You start to think about, well, yeah, what were we doing? Where everyone else is prospering with these. We look at the third industrial movement that happened in the early 1900s, when we had Carnegie and we had Rockefeller with the oil, Carnegie with the steel. We had J.P. Morgan with banking, etc. That where were Black people? Not just in America, but abroad. Where were we and what were we doing? And if you would leave it up to them, they would have you thinking, oh, we were just, either we were in impoverished third world cities with our hands out and bugs in our eyes and malnourished, or we were enslaved, or we were at war with each other, right? Wars that were instigated by them, of course. So the point I'm making is that, we need to write our own stories, and those stories have already been written. We just need to go back and retrieve those things. And so that's what tonight is about, to kind of go over that. So before I do that too, I always tell you that I like to go over thematically what we cover. And when we do what WTF podcast show is about thematically, we cover 6 themes, and that are governed by the 10 areas of people activity. I always talk about that. The 10 areas of people activity is economics, education, entertainment, health, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And so those 10 areas are woven into basically 6 themes that I will use when you tune in. I'm going to be covering one of these 6 themes. We're using those 10 areas. And those themes are finances, spirituality, health, history, philosophy. And tonight we're doing STEAM. So this is our first one on STEAM. So I hope that you all enjoy it. And just know that, again, that when I put stuff out, I'm that visual guy. So I'm not going to sit here and you just see me talking all night. I want to show you things to have an impact with you. And hopefully this will project you to want to do some more diligence on yourself. Okay. So again, thank you for tuning in. As you come in, please press that like button. If you have not subscribed already, please do. So go ahead and subscribe so that you will be notified when we do our next podcast. We do podcasts for the time being every Tuesdays and through Thursdays at 9 p.m. And so let's get started, right? All right. So let me pull up what I'm going to be talking about today. All right. And not just know that everything isn't lecture style, but these introductory episodes, I kind of do that. Eventually, I'm just going to come off mic and we'll just be talking about whatever. But initially, I want you guys to get what I'm speaking about here, because I think that's again, this is kind of like school, but not necessarily. It's really about us, sharing information and being in a space where it's time to learn. You know what I'm saying? It's time to take this information and then take this and use it to apply it into our lives, right? So let me pull up. This is do some things that some folks have been doing to us as the reason why we are where we at. But let's go ahead. Let's get in, yo. All right. So here we go. So I like to start out with this because I think that it's very key in understanding the purpose of all this, right? And so there's the saying that the two most important days in a person's life is the day that they are born and the day they understand why they were born. Now, we all know our birthday. Some of us are in our 40s, 50s, maybe even 60s, and still don't understand why we were born, right? And I think that's also because life has gotten in the way. And when I say life, I'll really say money, because we've been working and, for a career, trying to earn money and doing whatever's necessary to earn that money to sustain ourselves, but never really being able to, some of us, a lot of us rather, not even to get into those things that we have a lot of interest in, even going back to when we were children, things that we were interested in. And then we realized, oh, you can't make money in that. So you got to figure out something else. Right? So I think it's the sooner that we get to the point of knowing what our purpose is, of why we were born, then that becomes now to the point where it can be spread amongst your bloodline and also into your outreach to your community. Uh, we are living in a world that is based upon individualism and individual achievement, getting that bag, getting that degree, getting that car, that whip, whatever, having that bank account. But when it comes to communal things, now you got to get your own because I worked hard for mine, right? So, and there's nothing entirely wrong with that, but I think that there's something wrong with it when we see that there is it when it affects the community to the point where the community doesn't really have a say in its own existence, and that's been in the Black community since we've been emancipated, 18, or even prior to that when we were enslaved. All right, so I find for those of us that do venture out to want to learn about ourselves and our culture, is that some of us are also having Achilles. Uh, I think the biggest thing that the biggest this service we're doing to our future is not learning about your story, your history, a la Sankofa, which I'll speak about in a second, but staying in the past, meaning you're you're full up with all of what we did. You know what I'm saying? We built the pyramids, we did this, we did that, but then you're not aspiring to build any pyramids today. Okay, and a lot of us don't even have a clue or haven't even thought about, why haven't I built one today? I know all this stuff, and we've been exposed to this. We were this great. We were kings and queens, everyone says, and everybody wasn't a king and queen, because if that was the case, then there would be, every kingdom. There's not that many kingdoms, but that's a whole nother story. But the point is that we are focused on learning so much from our past that we don't apply any of what those nuggets were and bringing it into the future. Even in the present. You know what I mean? I would even try to just start there. If we could just do that, that would be great. To just bring some of this into the present, and then that would help us to supplant some things for happening in the future. But again, it's kind of hard to do that because we haven't seen examples. When you don't see examples, you're kind of afraid to be the first one to do it. In fact, you probably have you don't have a lot of faith that it can be done. Okay. So that's one thing that I think that we need to be really focusing on. This is where STEAM really helps to bring us in this space, is that we can use what we've learned here to then now apply those things in real time, right? So Sankofa, uh, if you are not familiar, Sankofa in definition means to go back and fetch. And it is something that is affixed to diasporic Africans, those that have been either brought here against their will, or even those that were here before that happened, because that's the case too. Nevertheless, fell under the stronghold of colonialism And they don't ask you were you born here or not, like as far as your bloodline. You're black to them, so you're gonna get discriminated just like someone that was born here. It doesn't matter. Let's just get that out the window, out the door, out the way, because a lot of us think, well, I'm not from Africa, and that's fine, but they think that you're African. Okay, and that's they as in those powers that be. So again, we talk about this every episode because again, I know there's some folks that may troll and say this or that, and I'm like, that's really not the discussion. This keeps us divided when we want to talk about where I'm from. The fact is, those that are in power see us as a collective, and if we don't see ourselves as a collective, then we remain disempowered. So I think it's really that simple. If we would just take that same philosophy, they see us as the same. If we saw ourselves as the same, imagine how far we'd be right now, or we'd be on the road of getting back to where we were. Right. Anyway, Sankofa. When you break down Sankofa, San means return, Ko means to go, and Fa means to look, seek, and take. And what you'll see here is a bird, a Sankofa bird that is reaching, although it's facing forward, its head is facing backwards, and it's reaching back to pick up a seed. So that seed, obviously, I would believe, I like to denote it as our history, our roots, right? And so this bird is reaching back to retrieve, to know who it is, so that it knows a better direction of where it's going. So in order for us to really know where we want to be and where we want to go in life, we need to go back and do an analysis of our history, and preferably, as said, in chronological order. So if you do that study, that analysis, you'll see that we do come from greatness. We just can't. We don't have to just say it. We really do. And to have documentation, to have artifacts, to have stats, only supports that, and it makes it more plausible for those as you're trying to convince your own people. All right. So it's very important that we understand the importance of Sankofa. So with that, it made me think about what better way to get us to understand our greatness and how we got here than to do an analysis. Let's talk about how great we were. Let's really break it down into all the spaces. Like, what did we do? And let's show it, like, so that we can have documentation of things so that people can actually see that, we really did some of these things. And that will empower folks to want to now think about when someone wants to dispute them, or even more important, it isn't even about the debates. It's really about yourself. It's about how you see yourself, the confidence that can grow inside you when you know where you come from, when you really come from, and I won't just say royalty for kingship, but as far as the innovative greatness and genius that we have, when you know that you come from that cloth, then creating your own solutions comes easy. All right. We are still in the mindset of thinking that, we need to put our hands out and have someone help us, opposed to turning those hands over and doing it ourselves, getting in and getting down. Right. So that's what this is really all about, is exposing, giving us examples of who we are so that we can have better experiences and then have that trickle down into our bloodlines. So what is STEAM? As I mentioned, STEAM is broken down as an acronym, means science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. It used to be just STEM. They added A, I don't know what year, but they added A for art. And, knowing me, I felt that wasn't enough. So, this is why I'm a rebel. So I'm going to see something. I'm like, okay, I want to add something to it. So I added economics to the E part for engineering. And then with the A, I added a plethora of things. I added, along with art, I added Afrofuturism, artificial intelligence, agitation propaganda, which is, media, anthropology, architecture, agriculture, astrology, and astronomy. I added all those A's, and in my course, we really go into like the African origin, and not even the African origin, the origin of these practices, because all of them come from Africa. Let me just say that, because it is African origin means, that's when Black people started doing it. No, we started it. Let's just go there. We started all of that. All right. So when you see that we started all of that, you can see how others then learned this thing and then they crafted it as their own. And then the last one is math. And, a lot of people don't like math, but it's numbers, it's numerology. But I also added metaphysics, because that's another level or a tentacle from spirituality, that we are really a spiritual people, and we need to tap into that to be able to reconnect to what we used to do. Okay, that's very important. All right, so that is what the definition of STEAM is. I want to play this clip of what really was the aha moment for me to get into STEAM, because at that point I said, okay, because I've always been into the history, culture, knowing the culture bandits as well. Um, but then when I started to think about what's going on outside of America, where a lot of the things are happening, because in America we're receiving the benefits of all of those castrations of culture, and we don't even know it. You know, we're living high off the horse because we're considered a first world country, not a third world. But when you understand the first world countries uh, they are they exist because of third world countries, then it should put a different taste in your mouth. So I want to play this clip. This clip is basically something that I think may stir you to know that even in today's times, uh, you have people that are plotting and planning to maintain their power. This is Howard Nicholas. He is he's an economic he deals with economics, and he did this uh talk. I don't know what year it was, but he was at a hotel, so he wasn't in his basement, in his mother's basement, doing the YouTube joint or whatever, like I may be, but I'm not. But he was in front of a lot of people, and based upon what he said, I had the feeling that he was not talking to any black people. All right, so let me play this clip. Check this out. Here we go.
Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is just give you some charts and a couple of tables just to paint a little bit of a picture that you already know. Okay, so what this presentation is fundamentally designed to say is this. Africa, historically, sub-Saharan Africa, has been fundamental to the global prosperity of the advanced countries. Okay? And Africa had a role to play. It has a role as a raw material producer. We will not allow sub-Saharan Africa to escape that.
Hear what he said? He said that Africa has a role to play as a raw material producer, and we will not allow them to get out of that role. All right, here we go again.
Okay, we do everything to keep sub-Saharan Africa where it is, also impoverished. It's absolutely vital for the prosperity of everyone else. So let's get clear about that. Okay, and this means all the economic structures, all the global institutions, and the economics we teach everyone is all designed to keep Africa exactly where it is. And whether it is Europe or US or now China, it's always the same. We need Africa to be impoverished because we need those raw materials and we need them dirt cheap. Okay, so that's the message. It doesn't mean to say that there's nothing Africans can do. Of course there is. Okay, but this is the opposition that they're fighting. This is what it's about. Because if Africa does do something different, I assure you living standards of all those in Europe and North America and Asia is going to fall. Okay? And that is a big price to pay.
You hear that nugget? So he told them their Achilles is if we united, that they would all fall. So knowing that, they understand that they cannot allow that to happen. Okay, let me finish playing the clip.
I assure you that the West is not going to allow that without a big fight. Okay, so this is what it's fundamentally about. What I want to show you is how these structures are operating. It's just 20 minutes, so we can't do very much, but just to give you a little bit of an idea. And why I keep the ideology part there is because we are part of the producers of ideology. At universities and academic institutions, we are complicit in this whole enterprise.
Now, y'all remember the episode I did about education and how we were created to become mediocre? John Rockefeller and the William Dunn School, we talked about this. Well, he's now talking in real time about the same mentality. We need to make sure that we control the education. We are the ones that are complicit in making this ideology of thinking that making black people think that they're worth nothing, and that all the values and the resources are there, but we don't want you to know that.
Okay, so the job of many Western academics is to convince Africans they have to keep doing what they're doing. Okay? And to show them it's your fault that you're poor. It's not our fault.
What? Yo, what the fuck? So they're saying they're gonna convince y'all heard what he said. Y'all heard what he said.
It's your fault that you're poor, you know. So this is what we do in academic institutions, and I want to show that as well.
All right. So y'all get what this guy is saying, and he's saying this in front of people. You know what I'm saying? And I'm sure we weren't there, right? I'm sure none of us were there, and if we were there, we're probably on their side anyway. But S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S said if we had an army based off of that, off of what he said, we will go to war immediately. That's true. We do have armies though in Africa, but they're not fighting. Well, some of them are starting to, especially in the DRC, the Congo. But for the most part, we are, those armies have been financed by the very people that have been causing the strife in our communities abroad. Brother Gerard said Africa must be kept in poverty so the rest of the world to loot it for all its riches. Facts. This is what we're talking about. And to get someone in America that is of African descent to even think about that, it's hard to come by because, we've been disillusioned. Our relationship with Africa has been, so tarnished that we don't even want to affiliate ourselves with Africa, right? Oh, that's them. That ain't me. Right? I don't feel any of that. I live in America. I can go to McDonald's. I can go to the movies. I can do whatever. I don't feel any of that. And that all actuality is if you were over there, you would be going through the very same thing based upon your skin complexion only. Okay. So this is what, they are saying in academia to convince the world. And again, this is a trickle down. So, you get the highest scholastic people to teach the teachers then teach the students, then the students grow up with this mentality. So we wonder, like, how is it that, there's so many racist young white kids? How can they be racist when, the 60s, the civil rights era was, what, going on 60 years ago? How is it that, they're just as racist, if not more than? Because a trickle down, continual dripping of this mentality of making us feel like we are less than. And the whole world is in on this, y'all. The whole world, not just America, the whole world. Brother Gerard says it makes me sick to my stomach. He is saying all this with a straight face, facts. No objections from the audience, exactly, because they're all complicit as well. And again, he's at a hotel. Now let us go to a hotel and have a conversation about African liberation, and they would be monitoring it. They might let us do the meeting because they want to find out who's the people and all that kind of stuff. Because we've had our history. We've seen, with the bootlaces I talked about the last 2 episodes about how black organizations get infiltrated. So they'll let you have your meeting and then they'll follow you and do whatever to infiltrate, right? Get another ninja to join and continue to share the information. But they're doing that because they're gathering intelligence, because they understand what they're doing. Their power is based upon keeping us illiterate, keeping us neglectful of knowing what's going on, and then not even wanting to know about it, right? And yet you're right, Sister Kendra, they're fighting for them. This is what's happening, right? So Sister Amin says that, it's no surprise what they're saying. These are our natural enemies, facts. The day that we realize that, I think the whole game would change. But again, we've been told, because we're supposed to be majority good Christian folk, that we're supposed to accept them as God's children, blah, 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 forgive them, all those type of things that we've been convinced to do, because in all actuality, what you're doing is you're allowing them to continue doing what they're doing. We continue to suffer. And the bonus is, well, yeah, just go ahead and suffer here because allegedly the Bible tells you you're going to inherit, heaven. You'll have your heaven later, have your hell now, which is, again, the most idiotic thing and the biggest form of brainwashing that anyone could ever do or go under. But again, we're the victims of that, right? So that's what's being said by folks like that. So how did they go about doing that? Well, obviously it had to be something psychological. They had to embed this type of mentality to make us not love ourselves, to think less of ourselves, and then to think that anything that represented us wasn't good enough, right? So there's three psychologically systemic methods of the what and how. We are taught to hate ourselves, and then also that allowed us to be fresh bait for them to now come for us, come and take us, and bring us here. So John Henry Clark said, uh, to control a people, you must first control what they think about themselves and how they regard their history and culture. I mean, that's saying it all right there. Control what they think about themselves and what they think of their own culture. We've been told that we're cannibals, etc., right? And when your conqueror makes you ashamed of your culture and your history, he needs no prison walls and no chains to hold you. I can't tell you how many times I'm around our people, and we see someone that might have a dark complexion, and someone be like, "Damn, she black," and laugh about it. And I don't think it's laughable at all. And that's a beautiful thing, that melanin, that rich melanin. We look at ourselves, and we look at babies that are malnourished in Africa, and we want to look at them in disgust or turn the channel because we don't want to see it. When in all actuality, that child looks like probably your niece or nephew. You know what I'm saying? So, we came from greatness, and I do believe with STEAM, it will enable us to get back to that where we were. Okay. Um, so let me go to the next slide here. So this is where we see these things happening. Again, I'm a very visual person, so this is why I created these slides for y'all, because I want you to feel what I'm saying and hope that it drives home. On the left, there's an ad that was put in the Black magazine in 1971. I'm not sure which one it was. It wasn't Jet or Ebony, but it says, "What's wrong with this picture?" And when you see that, you see a young boy looking into the mirror, and he has a towel around his neck, which is to depict a cape, because he wants to be super. He wants to be superior. He wants to be strong, right? But the image of that very same thing he wants, that likeness, looks nothing like him. The person in the mirror is the exact opposite of who he is. And here's the thing about it. Even in his heart of hearts, knowing that he aspires to be like this white Superman knockoff, in his inner core, the rooted of that core, he knows that he'll never be able to be there because he experiences racism. So that to me is like a double whammy when this is what you like to be and you aspire to be, but you know that you will never really get there. So that makes you in limbo. That makes you feel like, why even bother? Why even try? Even though you're trying earlier on, when you keep getting knocked down, eventually you are going to not want to get back up. So these are the things that, our youth are experiencing. We've experienced. We've even experienced. I know that I think about the superheroes I looked up to. I loved, the Hawk, because he was green, but he was really a white man. He was David Banner. You know what I'm saying? Black Panther wasn't really a big thing at that time. So, it's the fact that this is a part of agitation propaganda. And I've talked about this before. Agitation propaganda, the root word is agitate. And that's mean like if someone's going to continue pestering you with something, throwing things, images, sounds, whatever visuals to make you see or think a certain, and you eventually act a certain kind of way. Like I talked about, if you're hearing a song and you listen to the radio all the time and you're hearing a song that's playing every hour on the hour, eventually, if you hate that song, you will eventually love that song, or at least start humming it because you heard so much. It's indoctrinated through agitation propaganda. Propaganda is the media, the medium that they're using: radio, TV, print, internet, video, etc. Right? So this is what we are getting a high dosage of on a daily basis from the moment that we begin to recognize entertainment or quote unquote education. As soon as we're sitting in front of that idiot box, the tele-live vision starts telling you those lies about who you are and who they are. All right. So this is what we experience. Then there's the illusion of, in the center you see, that the lily white, quote unquote, Jesus, because there was no J back then in Bethlehem. But the coming, or the second coming. I mean, I heard a joke before when they said, that Jesus must be black because he late. The second coming. When is he coming? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's supposed to have been here. So, but the point is that, the fact is that we have been disillusioned to wait for this mysterious God to come down and make things all right for us, right? In the meantime, we have to sit here and suffer, right? And then the other one is a more modern depiction of how they are getting us with subtle views of hating yourself. This is an ad that was put in, I think it was in I want to say that now this is a pretty dated ad I pulled out a long time ago. If y'all remember Vibe magazine, Vibe magazine was a black magazine, and they had this ad, full page ad in here. And Vibe magazine was like the magazine was much bigger than your usual size. And I saw this ad, and it was by Nivea, and Nivea is they do lotions and stuff like that, right? So the lotion, if you know anything about Nivea lotion, is for good for like people that have eczema. If you have dry skin, it's basically yeah, the ad is crazy work. It is. It's subliminal, sister. Absolutely. So we're gonna talk about it. So Nivea says, basically again, it's to cure if you got bad, dry skin, and of course, the skin, the color of the lotion is white. Okay, so that's not again a coincidence. Again, when we talk about global white dependency, remove the word coincidence out of your vocabulary. Things are done for a reason. They decided to make it white for a reason. They didn't decide, well, let's just pick any color. Oh yeah, let's use white. No, they want to perpetuate that white is the cure, right? But in this ad, it says, look like you give a damn. Re-civilize yourself. Now, what is this brother doing? This brother is holding a mannequin's head, which is a depiction of himself, a black man, and he's in his natural state. He has his natural hair, he has a fro, he has a beard, goatee or beard or what have you, and he's about to throw it. He's about to haul it away from him, right? Get it as far away from him, because this is what they say. This is white folk telling you, don't be your natural selves. Act like you give a damn and re-civilize yourself. So these are the type of ads that we see in black magazines. You know what I'm saying? That, and again, media isn't that big as it used to be now because everything is digital, but print ads are still happening. I don't know if you remember Benetton back in the 90s and early 2000s. Benetton used to have these are the pictures of all these young models, and they would have these very dark skin complexion young models, and they would always have their hair cut up in like a devil. They would have horns, and then the little white girls would be designed as angels. So again, these are things subliminal that we see, that everyone sees, and when you see it, you become to a point calcified. Maybe in your earlier years, like, what the hell is that? But then when you see it so much, it becomes part of what you think things are, so you don't question anymore, unless you reawaken. And then when you reawaken, you see it all over again. You start questioning everything. But these are the types of agitation propaganda that we're seeing that is being put out, all right? That messes with our minds, all right? So how we were taught to hate ourselves. Even though our story is at the core of everything, in order to, and they understand this because there's a science, they studied this, right? They again, it's systemic. They put together a plan and worked it out. So we're now it's on autopilot. Is to, in order for us to hate ourselves, they need to control genius and become submissive. You must convince them. To control genius and become submissive, you must convince them. Now they're speaking about us, that they are less, deserve to be less, must serve others. And when these accomplishments are creating the slave ship mentality, well, we need these things in order for them to be able to create this mindset. So that's where we come in with the educational system, we come with religion, and then psychologically the perception of self through agitation propaganda when we see all these things. So when you put these things in place, what you have done now is created a loyalty. You've created, you basically, I call this the cultural lobotomy. A part of your brain that self-identifies with your worth has been taken out, has been remodified and calcified and sprinkled with white flour, white sugar, and basically the white mindset is that you will be better servants of those interests as long as you are still asleep. And I tell you not, this is really the whole experience we're seeing right now with our folks. We are the most talented yet, we are the it's disappointing to see how we suffer, not knowing who we are, although we are proud to be Black, but we can't really validate why. We don't know the history, and we don't even know who's responsible. And even when we do find out, we don't want to do nothing to them because I'm a child of light. I'm God's child. We're all God's children, whatever the reason, excuse is. Meanwhile, they're on assault. This is what we're seeing constantly from them. We're seeing images of pimps. If you are an athlete and you are dope, you are considered a beast, right? Um, yes, Sister Kendra, we have become desensitized. Exactly. And this is what happens with agitation propaganda. When they throw it at you so much, you forget to even question. You're numb now. You're casted under that spell. You don't even question anymore. You just accept it. And you might even be like, yeah, this is some bullshit, but you won't do nothing about it. So that's accepting. That's you're allowing yourself to suffer quietly, right? So again, the beast on the basketball court. We've seen the baby doll test from the 50s. It was done again, I think, in the early 2000s. The children that in the 50s that were choosing the white baby as the good baby over the black baby or the brown baby, still doing it today in the early 2000s. In fact, all the other ethnicities, they did Latino children, they did Asian kids, and they all chose the white baby and all chose the black baby as the worst based upon what these are children, like I'm talking less than, like some are 4 or 5 years old, already indoctrinated with seeing themselves as less. Okay. We're also depicted as, the primates of, chimpanzees and monkeys. And then when we do have fashion, they got to put us in a style where we're, the big full lips and the always want to, dance and shuck and jive or eating watermelon, which I think watermelon is one of the greatest things you could ever eat. So kudos for that. I appreciate that part. Again, usually things that they show us that they want to make fun of are some of the things that we should actually be doing when I speak about watermelon specifically. But again, this is part of a system. And the thing about global white dependency is they've documented everything to perpetuate it going on through the generations, and they're not afraid to put it in writing. Winston Churchill said this: history will be kind to us, for I intend to write it. I do not admit, for instance, that a great wrong has been done to the Red Indians of America or the Black people of Australia. I do not admit that a wrong has been done to these people by the fact that a stronger race, a higher grade race, a more worldly wide race, to put it that way, has come in and taken their place. So this is them saying, yo, I'm not saying sorry for taking shit over, because y'all don't see your own power. You don't, and I was able to disempower you by telling you lies. And in order for me to stay where I'm at, I got to continue doing that thing. So yeah, I'm not going to have any remorse. I'm not going to have any empathy for you, because my whole survival is based upon me convincing you that you are lesser than me. And they go hard. They go hard. It's everywhere we look. White people are put on a pedestal and black people are at the bottom. And if you keep the black people on the bottom, you're going to keep all the shades in between in line. Okay. So this, again, systemic. It is not something that just, it just happened this way. No, people decided that they were going to get involved. If you like what you're hearing so far, I really appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in and staying with me. If you have not by now, please go ahead and like this video. And at the same time, if you have not subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe so that you'll get notifications of the next episodes. And also tell somebody, bring some family in. You know what I'm saying? We can do, like, we have movie nights, we have game nights. Let's do knowledge nights. Let's come in here and get some knowledge some nights. All right. So just give thanks for that. All right. All right. So getting back to where we were. This all started when we talk about the Berlin Conference. Again, this is the caucasity now. This chapter is really talking about the caucasity of white people, the Caucasian audacity of white folks thinking that, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take mine. And to a degree, you can't blame them, because they were less than. But they understood, they worked with what they had to get what they've gotten. I'm not tipping my hat off to them and kudos. I'm just saying we could do the very same thing. They were determined. They self-determined, and even though their determination is rooted in lies, they have gotten to where they want to be. So if we use our self-determination and truth, we will be where we want to be. Okay, so this Berlin Conference happened November 15th in 1884. This is when 14 countries decided to come together, and they were going to chop up Africa. Now think about that. Let's take your house, for instance. Let's take your home. You're at home, and you get a bunch of white folk that just bum rushes through the house, and they have assignments. Okay, Craig, you got the kitchen, that's yours. Mary, you have the bedroom. Tom, you have the basement. Such and such has the living room. They just start divvying up your crib while you're there. They didn't wait till you left. You were there. And if you try to do anything, they will physically, restrain you and or just go ahead and X you off, right? So this is what they did. They showed up and decided that we were going to take Africa for ourselves. Now, the question is why? Because, don't you have your own land? So why are you so interested in taking Africa? Why Africa of all places? There's, and again, there's other continents. So why Africa? Well, that's because they were aware of what Africa has and still has. I worked when I got out of college in 1992. I worked for NASA, National Association for Space Agency, and for 4 years, I was privy to a lot of information that was being shared. We were creating curriculums for high school students and college students, and I was always fascinated with the satellites that they put out. And there was this one satellite called Landsat-7. Landsat-7 is a satellite that's still out there today. And what it does is it rotates around the world and it scans the Earth looking for natural resources. Okay. So Landsat-7, I think it was put out in the 70s, mid 70s, I think 1977. It was able to prove what these folks in 1884 did while they focused on Africa. They showed that all of the natural resources, the majority of the natural resources is on that continent. Right? It is said that Africa is the continent that did not move. All the other, if you look at, you hear Persia, Pangea. Pangea is when they say that all at one time, all the continents were together. And then there was the tectonic plates that shifted and made the continents break apart. So they're saying everything moved apart except for Africa. Africa has been in the same place since prior to the tectonic shifts. And so what we find is that Landsat-7 has proven that in these spaces, we're seeing all types of natural resources. If we look at the northern tip of Africa, we're seeing a bunch, seeing crude oil, petroleum, natural gas. We're seeing, one second here. We're seeing coffee. We're seeing gold, uranium. We're seeing iron and ore, cotton, gold. I said oil, coffee, grains. When we can see where all of these colors, right? But when you notice there's a color chart, that color chart is going to tell you like what the products are based upon, food, drink, materials. And I know this is kind of hard to see on the screen. You can blow it up if you can. Take a screenshot. You can blow it up. Textiles, machinery, electronic related, and other things like that. The image on the right is now the results from the Berlin Conference of who gets what part of the continent. So the folks that are in control of, let's just say, the crude oil are the Italian and British. The oil uranium, and cotton is by the French. Okay. Spanish has the iron ore in the upper left. So we're seeing, diamonds primarily are Belgium and the British. Okay. So when they were divvying up your house, taking over the kitchen, taking over the bedroom, taking over the garage, etc., these countries understood, okay, I'm going to be in charge of the world's gold, the world's uranium, the world's, these natural resources, and created billions, trillions even, off of the natural resources taken from your house, from our within our house, and including our backyard. And they are still in control of these things today, right? So this is what's important for us to understand, is that this is the reason why we are in the space that we're in. It isn't just because they don't like Black people, is because they actually want our natural resources, to the quote, or the video I showed you earlier, right? So one of the biggest products that is on notice of this day is happening in the Congo, Dominican Republic of Congo, and that is coltan. And coltan is responsible for a lot of things that we use today in our devices. Your cell phone, what causes it to vibrate, your laptop, those type of things are products that is mined out of the Congo, the only place on the continent, I mean, in the world. So our 21st lifestyle is thanks to the hidden mines in the DRC. Miners work in dangerous conditions to extract the mineral that powers your iPhone, right? Coltan controls power flow in your iPhone and your Samsung Galaxy, and many of the mines controlled by militia are funded by European countries, mainly Belgium, because that is Belgium's area, right? So what is coltan? I want to play this clip just so you can get familiar with what it is.
Do you know who your cell phone's affecting?
Coltan is a metallic ore comprising of niobium and tantalum. It is found mainly in the eastern regions of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Coltan is used in computers, video games, hearing aids, pacemakers, prosthetics, but is mainly found in cell phones because they are in the highest demand.
Coltan is mined by hand in the Congo by groups of men digging basins and streams. A coltan miner can earn as much as $200 per month, compared to a typical salary of $10 per month for the average Congolese worker. Initially, the value of coltan was $65 per kilogram. However, the tech boom caused the price of coltan to rocket to $600 per kilogram.
The issue with this mineral is that the increased demand for coltan funds the civil war in the Democratic Republic of Congo, along with causing environmental devastations in the regions where it is mined.
So again, they're going to show you, I had to try to find a video. These were done by some, sounded like some European students with us. So they left out a lot of stuff about the war, the strife, the working conditions, the very low pay, if any at all, and the abuse from those that are there working and trying to maintain their power there, right? So there's a lot of abuse happening. And to be honest, that's something that I think really is alarming, that we should be talking about, is how they're being treated. How they're being treated is something that should cause you to be vexed, yo. If you notice on the picture in the bottom row there's the third picture in the bottom row, a man that has his hands amputated. They were cut off because he allegedly, not because he stole anything, but because he didn't reach a day's quota. So he didn't reach a day's quota, and they cut off one of his hands. So then, of course, naturally, he has to heal. They bring him back to work, and now he has to still reach a quota with one hand. And of course, he wasn't able to. So what do? They cut his other hand to create an example, to make people work. Now, this goes back to plantation era, when they would take, if you saw Roots and they was whipping Kunta Kinte, they're going to take the strongest, and even probably in some cases the wisest and elder, and they're going to humiliate him and beat him to a pulp, and or her, to make the onlookers see that, okay, if they can do that to our strongest and greatest and wisest, then I don't have a chance. So I will follow suit and do your bidding. Okay. Yah says Burkina Faso is on the right track. Remove them from positions of power. Control manufacturing within the country. Go grow as earning exporters, and damn it, stop paying tax to colonizers. Makes no sense. Absolutely. So there is this awakening that's happening that we're witnessing. And I'm glad to hear that. And I'm hoping it becomes viral, that all the other countries understand it. When we understand our power collectively, man, this thing would be over. It would be over. Give thanks for that, Sister Ya. So, again, this is what's happening. They're working, some anywhere between 21 to 22 hours a day sometimes. And again, they have to reach a quota or there is a physical repercussion. It's even now not just, let's not talk about, just white folks, everybody getting in on it, and particularly the Asians. Asians are moving into Africa in drives. There's an Asian invasion happening where they are becoming the head of these natural resources, coming in as project managers, hiring the locals. Oh, we're giving you jobs, but the working conditions are like, strenuous to a point where, again, they're all about supply and demand. And they're like, you gotta supply this demand or you're gonna fill this hand, right? So there's clips going around viral. You've probably seen some of them. I'm gonna share a couple of them now that we've seen. Again, the brutal abuse to the point where it's not just, wanting to fight, but actually cause physical harm, if not even kill someone that is not performing. And they're in their backyard. These are foreigners coming into Africa, creating a business situation, hiring locals. And then when the locals are not doing what they want them to do to the level that they expect, which is probably exceeding, then they physically abuse them. Check this out.
Directorate of Criminal Investigations has arrested a Chinese national after a disturbing video clip in which he was caught whipping a Kenyan employee went viral on social media. Several others were also arrested after it was discovered that none of them had valid visas. Anita Nkonge has more.
In a disturbing video that went viral, Deng Han is seen here whipping a Kenyan national for allegedly reporting late to work. Deng, who is a chef at Shewu restaurant in Kileleshwa, is seen asking the employee where he would prefer to be hit and then proceeds to whip him twice. In a raid carried out earlier today, DCI detectives from Kilimani arrested Deng for working at the hotel without a work permit. Two other chefs, Chang Ying and Wu Yang, were arrested for holding expired visas. Yu Ling, a cashier, was also arrested for holding a visitor's visa but no work permit. According to the DCI, 8 other Kenyans who work at the hotel were escorted to Kilimani police station for further interrogation. The video caused outrage online, with many calling for investigations and stern action to be taken against the perpetrators. In a tweet, the Chinese embassy in Kenya said it fully supported Kenyan police investigating the issue. They said anyone found breaking the law will face consequences. Anita Nkonge.
So, these are foreigners. They don't even have visas to be in Africa, and they sitting over there beating up on locals, right? Here's another one.
This is a video from a mine in Sierra Leone. Watch how this Chinese national, who is the manager of the mine, shouts at a worker and barges towards him. And the moment he attacked the worker gave it back with a kick and a slap. Watch how the scuffle unfolded.
Leave him, he's on record. Hey.
He's charging him, he's trying to stab him, yo.
He's on record, leave him.
The enraged Chinese worker then came armed with a stick and barged towards the worker, attacked him, while other workers tried to restrain him. The efforts to contain him were in vain, and the worker was then seen kicking the Chinese manager hard. The Chinese national is reportedly a manager with the China Railway 7th Group Company. The tussle broke out at the Tonkolili mine site after the manager of the Chinese government-owned company forced workers to participate in a training exercise after the workers' scheduled workday. Enraged citizens of the African nation reportedly called for the Chinese manager to be arrested, charged to court, imprisoned, and then kicked out of Sierra Leone after serving his prison term.
So he was kicked out of Sierra Leone afterwards. But the point is that he's showing up, he's by himself, yo. All the other Africans around, and nobody's that's what I don't understand. Why are you all having your phones out? Like, I get it, get one person, but the rest of y'all kick his ass. And what is going on? Like, why are y'all allowing him to do what he's doing? I just don't understand that. You know what I mean? But that's what we're living in. That's the world we're living in, right? Where people like to, be spectators. Here's one last one. So again, they are in there not playing. They're going in there like trying to wreck shop and govern. And again, it's a perception that they have of us. I mean, I've seen videos. I saw the actual video of him actually whipping the brothers, and then I've seen other videos where Asians are like, people think that they're such a kind and yeah, there are some good people in the world, yes, but collectively, when we look at their collective treatment of African people, especially those that come into the Caribbean, that was mentioned. Sister Kidra said, that they already own everything in Jamaica. They over in Costa Rica. They're in all of the Caribbean islands, and they are owning. They're not going there just to visit. They're owning, and they are bringing their practices there, treating people less than, and that's something that's a clear indication that there's some racism that they're taught in their culture about us. And the funny thing about it is, if you understand anything about Asian culture, the original Asians were African people. The earliest Shogun warriors, Africans. So again, there's this global. Everyone's in on it, y'all. I'm just letting you know, if you didn't know, it ain't just white people. It's everybody that's in on keeping Black people where we are, because there's something great about us that they don't want us to know. If we knew this thing, then it would render them powerless. Okay, and that's the importance of why I'm showing you these things, because we're accustomed to it, but we don't talk about it. Yeah, exactly. It's made us very complacent because we don't want to talk about it because it hurts and because we don't know what to do with it, and we don't know what the counter is. What the counter is, one, we should be talking about it amongst ourselves. Secondly, what can we do to stop this thing from happening? And has it always been this way? What were we before? We come from greatness. What did that look like? All right. So that's what this is all about. All right. So let's talk about the occupation in Africa. The top 5 mining companies in Africa. And did a little bit of diligence on this, and just again, wasn't surprised at what I found. The top 5 mining companies in Africa. One is Glencore. It is the top cobalt mining company in the Dominican Republic of Congo, and they're owned by the Swiss. Okay, so again, it goes back to the Berlin Conference. Let's go back and look at those maps and see. Okay, they're in the area, and so they are the top controllers of that mine, that mineral of cobalt. The second one is Gold Fields Limited. They're the top gold mining company in South Africa. All right, in 2022, they yielded $4.3 billion in gold in revenue, and they were also investigated for bribes by the SEC. So there's also some corruption with these companies. Okay, we just have to understand that. I meant to mention too, Glencore, the cobalt mining company, in 2022, they settled a $180 million corruption claim with the folks in the Dominican Republic of Congo. Okay, so there's some mishandling. Again, there's some underpaying, if paying at all. There's some overworking, etc. There's some living conditions, and so people are trying to take them to court or what have you, and they're having to pony up. But $180 million is nothing when you're yielding billions. That's nothing. Right? The third one is Kankola Copper Mines. So this is the top copper mining company in Zambia, owned by the British. Right? London. 80% is owned by Vendetta Resources, which is based in London, and only 20% of Zambia, right? So again, someone's coming to your house, your land, and they find a natural resource, and they're going to take 80% of the profit and give you 20, but it's on your land. How did these, outside of military force, I just don't understand how they were able to bamboozle the people to okay this outside of military force. I'm thinking it was just military force, but outside of that, how else could that be done? Right. The fourth, they actually have, they make 2 million tons of copper annually. The fourth one is Kojima Resources Inc., or Arano Group, and they're the largest uranium company. They're in Niger, and they're owned by the French. So we talk about, the Middle East and uranium, for bombs and whatnot. But all of them are getting that uranium is coming from Africa. Okay, making these weapons of mass destruction. They're headquartered again in Paris, France. The fifth one is Anglo American Platinum, and they're the top platinum mining company out of South Africa. 79% of the company is held by a single shareholder, Anglo American PLC. Bunch of white folks. Okay. So again, you're seeing them occupying Africa, taking the natural resources, creating trillions out of it, if not billions, or billions, if not trillions, and giving the people there very little, still making them be classified as a third world country. So again, why we talked about why they come there, but also why do they come for us? That's the other question that I wanted to ask. And it's just that me said that collectively they are all part of the great white family. I look at them all the same. Yep. They will all get these hands without hesitation. Fire. Yes, for real. They are all the same. They see us as the same. I've seen them as the same too. Absolutely. That's how you can narrow down who your foes are. And even if they are like, well, I'm not really down, you're benefiting from it, so you're part of them. You're guilty by association. Right? They see us that way. Right? So why did they also come for us? It's one thing to take the land. They could have just killed the people, right? They just took the land. They could have just did that, or kept enough for the labor force. But why not kill us all? Because there's something about us that they understood that they did not possess, and really was too lazy to even try to understand. STEAM was our lifestyle. We say STEAM today, but STEAM was always a lifestyle. We always use science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Always. It's just that someone decided to give it an acronym and make it, fancy. But we use STEAM to create Timbuktu in Mali. The underground church in Ethiopia. There's architecture, structure. The Dogon, who are the oldest astronomers that are documented. They use mathematics and astronomy. The Valley of the Kings in Kemet, we see the structures of architecture of buildings being carved out of one full mountain, not how you see today where they bring in the parts and they assemble them and then weld them together. This Valley of the Kings, when you see this down here, the Valley of the Kings in Kemet, it is carved out of that one big slab of stone behind it. It carved into it, right? And it's symmetrically aligned. There are no leaning or, it's all symmetrically designed and aligned mathematically. And then we were the first city planners. We created the first cities. So there was something about us, that ingenious about us, that they understood, well, we need them to do this, and maybe we can learn some of it, but, they're better at it. Sister Kidra said they threw the Bible at us to keep us from going within, to make us look outside of ourselves. 1,000%. When you can convince someone that the power is outside of yourself, then they're going to forevermore be looking for someone else to bring it to them instead of themselves. And that is what we have fallen into, that illusion, that spell. Yes, Brother Gerard, facts. So I asked this question because you probably heard this, you probably been told this before. Like, you shouldn't be doing more. You should just focus on one thing. If you focus on one thing, then you can be good at that, right? But the thing is that, is it really better to be good at just one thing? Instead of 1 degree, when we go back to antiquity of our days in Africa, or before colonialism existed, we studied many things. We studied agriculture, science, astronomy, architecture, engineering, alchemy, medicine, mathematics, spirituality, etc. We studied all these things. And there's the saying, a jack of all trades is the master of none, but oftentimes better than the master of none. So to counter anyone wants to tell you that, oh, you should just focus on one thing, just hit them with that, yo. Yeah, you could be good at that one thing, but you're a master. I mean, I'd rather know a little bit of everything than to have only focused on one thing. So what if all you're good at is just one thing and that thing becomes no longer of use? Then what else do you do? But if you know a little bit about other things, then you can apply yourself there. And that is the point, is that we have been conditioned to be a one-trick pony. We go to school to get what? 1 degree. You might get another one, a master's, a PhD, you might get 2 or 3, but we study 360 degrees. The Masons, although they only have 33 of our 360 degrees of knowledge, that was definitely taught in the ancient mystery schools of Kemet in the Nile Valley. They took those 33 degrees and have been able to rule the world ever since, just from applying those 33 degrees. Okay. But the bottom line is that they knew something about us. They knew that there was a talent in us that was unmatched by any other ethnic race. And they knew that if they wanted to create the utopia that they wanted to be in control, they needed to control us. And at the same time, convince us to share these things with us. And I think that's the one error we had, is that, we were just too damn friendly. I remember reading a book. I can't remember the name of the book, but it was talking about how the very first settlers, when they came, very first pirates that arrived on African shores, they were killed immediately. Because our ancestors, they saw them as an enemy. Like, you don't look nothing like us. I don't know who you are. They killed them immediately. But at some point, we became a little bit, I don't know, a little too welcoming. Let them in. And next thing you know, they've infiltrated and taken over. And we've been suffering that ever since. But I do feel like there's a pendulum swing. We're going into it's about to return to where things were. Okay. So they knew that we studied the stars and brought the heavens to earth. They knew this after studying us. And that's the one thing they do say, is know your enemy. They really went in on knowing who their enemy is and studying us, and then coming back to us as friendlies and convincing us that, and then doing the mollywop on us. So S.T.E.A.M., as I mentioned, was our lifestyle. S.T.E.A.M. designed America, and it designed the entire world. Right? It designed the entire world. Europeans knew about African tech. When we talk about science and technology, we'll break down just a couple of them. Science and tech, that, the Z is something that is really a marvel to look at, because the Z is known as the symbol of stability. And it's associated as the backbone or the spine of Asar. If you know anything about Asar, Set, and Heru, the original Trinity, mother, father, child, that the Z is, symbolic even with your own spinal cord. It have these columns and they stand firm. This is what allows you to stand upright. So the Z created power simply by placing 2 metals on both sides of the papyri, soaked in water or acid. So it would create electricity, y'all. So, we talk about Benjamin Franklin. Was it Ben? Or was it Christopher? Yeah, Benjamin Franklin had discovered electricity, and with the key and all that kind of stuff. With they got hit from a thunderstorm or whatever. That's the interesting thing about how they want to convince you that they were the ones that discovered. They maybe uncovered something that was already there. I may give you that, but you weren't the first to create these things. And we think discovered means that you were you created this thing. Discovered means to uncover something that was already there, right? And in their cases, they are prone to take the credit from someone else. Sister Soul Vibration says, if they had adopted the North Sentinel Islands ways, they will take you out. Yeah, facts. Facts on that. Sister Ami says, Ashe. So that Jed was also used to power the Nile Valley. Imagine now, if you've ever seen pictures of the pyramids, and again, the original name is Mir, M-I-R, and plural M-I-R-W, Mirway. That Kemet was used to light up the pyramids. Sister Kendra says they are only in power because we don't know who we are. Again, yep, that's what this is all about. And this is why these conversations are important to have, because we didn't get these growing up. I didn't know a thing about this. And once I did, I couldn't help. That's why I was a writer. And I was like, I'm writing whatever I know and sharing it with our people. This is what's also made me want to do WTF, Ways to Freedom, because we don't know these things. And if we do, maybe we're doing it in isolation. If we got with other people that also knew this too, then what can we do as a collective? That's what really this is all about, right? So when we look at Europeans, with not the Nile Valley, that imagine looking at Kemet and seeing Kemet. I'm sorry, when you go today to Kemet, you're going to see most pictures, rather. If you see a picture of Kemet, you're going to see the Nile Valley. I mean, you're going to see the desert behind it, right? You're going to see the desert behind it. Most people don't know, if you were to look on the other side, if you go to the other side of the pyramids or the mirror, you would see a big ass city with highways, lights. It's a city right on the other side of the pyramids, but they don't want you to see that. They want you to think it's all ancient and, destitute and all that kind of stuff. But the point is, imagine that city being able to create light. Imagine like when we go to like Vegas or you go to New York City at night and you see the lights and billboards and all that kind of stuff. Imagine that being in Kemet. And I see it as actually happening. Right? Definitely, yes. And sister, I'm gonna say Luxor, yes. Yes. The pyramids in Giza. Right? So I'm sorry, Giza, not Luxor. So the point is that when you see that or can imagine that, it makes you think about how was the, electricity being that it was normal back even then, and we're talking about minimum 5,000 years ago, and going back even further. I mean, there's stuff I'm learning now where and I'll be bringing this in our episodes down the road, but we've been here for 450,000 years. There's been civilizations here, so this 2,000-year-old calendar, Julian calendar, is some straight bullshit, y'all. Like 2,000 years is probably really, I would say 6,000 years has been their reign, but we predate all of that. Their reign is about a centimeter on a ruler stick of what's been happening in a time of life on this planet. But again, we don't know these things because we don't control the information. That John D. Rockefeller made sure of that. They rewrote the history, right? They're in control of the knowledge and the information. But now in the information age, and stuff is getting out. But the point is that you have a place where cities that use electricity well before your Thomas Edisons, well before the industrial revolution that happened in the early 1900s, right? Before Nikola Tesla. Okay. So in fact, when in 1798, Napoleon had already come down to Kemet and saw, this is an artist's rendition of or depiction of what Napoleon saw when he came and saw the ancient relic of Hiram-Akhet, which some people mistakenly call the Sphinx. We talked about that in the Boule series, so go back if you want to understand what the Sphinx is and why it shouldn't be called that. It should be called Hiram-Akhet. But Heru on the horizon is what Hiram-Akhet means. And him seeing this decided that, instead of admonishing and giving respect to this relic, he had his army line up and shoot 21 gunshots to the nose and lips to deface the nose and lips. And they went all throughout the Nile Valley doing that, defacing the nose and lips, because the nose and lips were like African noses and lips. You could very well tell that these were African people that created these designs. where they want you to think they're aliens, they came from some other planet. There were people that were on this planet that created these things. Okay. Um, and that's that's a loaded conversation when I talk about us coming from other civilizations, but they were melanated people. I'll just say that. Melanated people. Could be from this planet, could be from another planet. Again, that's a loaded statement that we'll address later on in further episodes. Just bear with me. But anyway, Napoleon brings 167 scientists and technicians. So where do you hear of someone that is taking over a country to bring their science team, unless they knew something was there that needed to be uncovered, that needed to be studied? See about 167 scientists and technicians with him. And in 1801, they came back and invaded. Right? They invaded Kemet and took over everything. Created the Library of Alexandria, where they took all of the information, the papyri, and put it away in this space. And for 1,000 years, no new information was revealed because they used that time to study who we were. There's a person by the name of Alessandro Volta, where we get the name Volt from, that discovered a battery pile, the JED, that produces stable electrical currents. So again, here we see one of the pirates that comes down to Kemet and finds a JED and sees that it is actually a battery that creates energy. And what does he do? He takes control of it, calls it on after him, the Volt, and then he creates a depiction of it that we see in use today, which is called a battery or a pile. All right. So he took claim of that, and this model is still being used to this day. Next time you're out driving, you see a power line, take a look at the image on the right. It is the JED. It's called a volt or a pile now, but it looks a lot like the original JED. So when we talk about 9-volt batteries or volt, they're all talk about Alessandro Volt. And remember, we talked about names. We talked about mentor last week. Alessandro Volt. We say Volt. We're giving Volt power and validation of his wrongdoings. So when I talk about, and it's funny, if I go to the store and I'm like, I need to buy some batteries, I'm like, I need a 9-jetted powered, battery. They're like, well, 9-jet? What are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, the JED. And I individually have to say Volt. But I purposely let people know that I am using the original names, because that's where you bring back the resurrection of that power of our greatness, right? So electricity was used over 5,000 years ago, and it's still being used today. All they did was copy it. White folk, all other folk, to be honest, are masters at plagiarizing and copywriting. They don't take the information and create their own. They just take what we did, claim it as theirs, claim that we did nothing, and then take the credit. But when we go into the tombs, you can see I was in the tombs of Temple of Hathor, and I saw this carving, touched it. This is the depiction of the first light bulb. And the light bulb is being powered by a serpent. If you see me on the right there, right where my left hand is touching, you can see the JED, the three columns that's under the light bulb, where the two light bulbs are touching. The image on the left is me cutting it in half. There was another light bulb on the other side, but the light bulb was being powered by, you see a line that's coming out the bottom and going over to a center area. That center area was being powered by a JED. Okay, this was in the temple, and they'll tell you when I was in this temple, it was I just got let me just tell you this real quick, because this is really interesting. When I was in the temples, there's something about Kemet where when you see, you want to go into the pyramids, you want to see what these things are like, right? And I had this idea, I had this vision of when you walk into the mirror that, you go in on the ground floor, and when you come in, you're just going to see all the way up to the top of, you'll see the entire top of the pyramids, right? You'll think, oh, that's what, it's like this big hollow area, right? It's all full of stone. There's only certain passages that you can get through. They had some things cut off. But when we went to the Temple of Hathor, and I was over here to get into the temple, the interesting thing is that the entrance, you can't walk in. I'm 6'2", so you can't just walk in like that. You actually, the entrance is about, I want to say less than anywhere between 2 to 2.5 feet. So what does that mean? You can't walk in. They said the best way to get in is you have to get down in the push-up form in the stance and enter feet first and back your way in. So you had to back your way into the temple this way, right? So I was like, man, I'm a little claustrophobic. Y'all know about you. So I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do that. But I did fly all the way over here to see it, 15-hour flight. So I was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to experience this. And I remember them telling me that when you crawl through the tunnel, don't stand straight up because, and I still don't understand why, but it seems like, I don't know why they made them so short. Maybe they were that short. I don't know what the reason is, but I made an error when I got in the tomb. I was backing in feet first. And once I got in, I went to stand straight up and I crashed my head into the wall it was about maybe 5 feet, 4.5 feet. So I crashed my head and my neck crunched like a handful of potato chips. I thought I had like really sprained my neck really bad. But fortunately, I had my crown. My trusty crown took the blunt of the blow. I just crunched my neck a little bit. But I was like, damn, why would they, why are the ceilings so low? But that always astonished me throughout all the tombs that I went through. A lot of them you had to crawl in. Why? Again, I don't know. I just wanted to share that with y'all. Thought that was pretty interesting. Sister Army says, and it's so much deeper than electricity. The walls are depicting how things work spiritually, the way our ancestors needed us to understand. They urge us to know that. 1,000,000% on that point, Sister. Yes, because we didn't know the reason why they wrote. The reason why they wrote on the walls was because they knew that we were going to be invaded. They knew that our story needed to be preserved. They also knew papyri, which was the paper at the time, couldn't last a lifetime. Couldn't withstand time. If it gets wet, it gets damaged. So they understood that if you write, if you go to Kemet, if you ever get a chance to go to Kemet, and I think every person of African descent should go to Kemet, just like Muslims go and do their Hajj, in Mecca. Some Christians may go to Bethlehem. I think Africans should go to not, I'm going to go to Ghana and Senegal. That's great. Go to East Africa first. Go to Kemet first and see what's there for yourself. Because those walls are called hieroglyphics erroneously. They're really called Medu Neter. If you know about the Medu Neter, and I can't read it, I wish I could. I need to. That's on my list to get better at reading. Is our story is there. They put it in, they preserved it there for us to know. So your sister Ami's point. So that's the point, is that our story has been preserved. It is there in writing. We just need to go and see it. Stop getting just the passports and going to the resorts and showing memes of you, sipping whatever. Go and see your story, and then go and migrate and speak with the locals, because most of them will call you their cousin. They know who you are, and they will receive you. All right. So moving on. Economics in STEAM. Our money, the currency, uses things and symbols from our story. Okay. We talk about the currency. If you turn back the dollar bill, we can see geometric or masonry type of symbols all throughout. You can see the goat of Mendy symbol. And you can see that if you see all these points, they all point to M-A-S-O-N, Mason. Okay. On the right, it points it again, and people will think, oh, that's the Star of David. That's the Jewish symbol. It is not. It's called a Sephidet. Sephidet is, or Sephidet is actually an African term. It's a symbol for Asar Set, male and feminine principle in union. Okay, but again, we don't know our stories, but they put it on their dollar bill. Why would they choose these symbols? One, because they're too lazy to create their own. Two, they are on the low paying homage to who we are. They are on the low doing that. They're letting us know that they know who we are. It's just that we don't know who we are, And so because we don't know who we are, they're able to throw these things in our face, and we're all and none wiser. right, about it. So it's in our currency. When you blow up the dollar bill in the back, you'll see another septet and the Star of David in that constellation above the eagle. There's numerology all throughout the dollar bill. There's 13 different symbols in this symbol right here. You know, you have the 13 arrows, 13 leaves, 13 berries, 13 stripes, e pluribus unum. You know, you see all these things that are symbolic to numerology, and numerology is obviously the universal language of power. But again, these things are put in there for a reason. They didn't just decide, oh, we're going to put that there. They did this for a reason. And for those that know the code, will acknowledge it and can use that information to their advantage. Okay. As I mentioned, we were brought here to build America. So some of the oldest artifacts that are here, that are in our face every day, what do they say? The easiest way to hide something from a ninja is to put it in a book or right in front of your face. So we see these things and don't even know that they're talking about who we are. So, you know, we just have to understand that this is our story. And when you understand that, you'll understand the game that's been played upon us. We understand who is responsible for the design of Washington, D.C. When we talk about, you go into the Library of Congress in D.C., in the nation's capital, and you can look on the ceiling and you can see a symbol of America. And then right next to it at the center is Egypt. They have all these other countries around it, but they all are pointing to Egypt. They're all acknowledging Egypt as the origin or the first and oldest civilization. Not Greece, what they teach us in school on a governmental level, on the highest level of the lands. They all know they got this stuff from Kemet. Now, even though this person that you see on here is lighter toned, they are acknowledging that Kemet is the origin. On the bottom right, you'll see it is the Library of Congress, and that is when you look at this building, it's very interesting. Baba Anthony Browder, my Jegna, has taught me several times in his trips Egypt on the Potomac trips in DC. Field trips that he shows the ethnological heads, where you have 33 heads of all nationalities on the top row of that building, all surrounding the entire, circumventing the entire upper level of that building. And each of those heads are basically from African to the whitest of whites, from, you know, Turkey, from, you know, wherever they're from. There's 33 heads of all the races, right? And so in the front of the building are Europeans. And so people think, of course, you put the white folk in the front, right? And then in the back are all of the heads of Africans. And we think, of course, yeah, you put the black people in the back, right? But the architecture, this is STEAM, y'all. The architecture and the architect behind this was not lying, was not wrong. He was right on point. Now, I can't remember the name of the person that designed it. But the point is, the building, the front building faces west, and the back of the building faces east. Now, when we talk about the Orient, when we talk about the origin of history, we always talk about it coming from the east. People, unfortunately, do not include Africa, which to me baffles me. How can you say the east and you think Orient or Oriental without including Africa? But for some reason, people dissociate Africa as being in the east. Although when you look at the map, if North America is on the west, then what's on the east is Africa, along with Europe and Asia, right? So they don't include Europe and Asia, but they won't include Africa. So Africans in the back facing east is correct, because when the sun rises, it rises where? In the east. That is the origin. The ethnological, again, it's the ethnological timeline of the origin of man. So they are right in saying, yeah, black people were first. They're telling you right there. If you know the language, if you know the code, you're seeing that they are admitting the fact that we are their parents. And they also say Western civilization is where we're living right now. So that's why they are in the front, because they're facing west. But again, if you don't understand architecture, you wouldn't know these things. And because we don't understand STEM, or we've forgotten what STEM is, that we are not aware of them actually acknowledging and telling our story right before us. Right? Here's another example. These are the streets of DC. All right, Street Master DC. Let me get the street names right because I gotta blow it up to make sure I get the street names right here. Because these are things that they don't want, again, you to know. So on the left, we see a pentagram, or some people say the goat of Mendes. Right? We all know, wickedry that happens in DC. So we know that DC is one of the bellies, along with New York, as one of the bellies of the beast, right? So we see that the goat of Mendes, the tipping point points where? To the White House, where all of the fuckery happens, right? And then we see that this is on 16th Street Northwest, and it stretches out as long as 23rd Street and 9th Street. So in between 9th and 23rd, we're seeing the formation of this goat of Mendes symbol, right? A blatant symbol of Satan. Well, we could say that, but actually has a meaning before that. But the point is that they're using it for wickedness, right? And again, we also see in that same formation, and again, this formation is in streets. So the streets design, so I meant to mention, the city planning part is that these lines that I draw, to just draw them over there, you'll notice that you see the points, they're pointing to circles. Those are circles, or the White House. Those are points of intersection, streets that are intersecting. Each of these are streets. So you can see this crossing Massachusetts. It's also crossing, what is that? Connecticut Avenue. These lines that you're seeing, and I can't use my pointer, I keep thinking I'm on Zoom. But if you notice, looking at these street signs, you'll see that these are actual street signs in the design of the city of DC, the District of Columbia. So they actually purposely designed these streets with these symbols in mind. And on top of that same map, to the right, we see another S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S. Another S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S, not the Star of David. Another S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S, which is a symbol of Asar and Aset, the union of the first acknowledged. Well, let's just say that's the Kemetic version of Adam and Eve. But even on Adam and Eve, that's a whole other story. We ain't going. I shouldn't even said that. But the point is that we're seeing that the S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S is also in the street designs of Washington, D.C. Brother Gerard said, wasn't this designed by Benjamin Banneker? Yes, it was. Benjamin Banneker worked with, was it John Lafayette? His last name was Lafayette, and creating the city, whereas Lafayette, Benjamin Banneker would actually get his designs from the stars. People don't know that Benjamin Banneker was of Dogon blood. He was of the Dogon. And again, the Dogon are those that were able to read the stars without telescopes. So Benjamin Banneker being able to map out DC at night, and then John Lafayette will go out and then lay out the city from his findings. Okay. So again, I'm not saying I don't think that Benjamin Banneker was like, we're going to use the goat of Mendes and put that in. I think he was actually using the African terminology of it. And it escapes me right now of what the original pentagram means, but it's an African symbol. But he definitely used the S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S as well. So he's actually letting people know he's putting Africa on the map. Literally, he's bringing heavens to earth and showing the African presence in the nation's capital. Okay, right before our very eyes. So just to break down again, the S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S is a symbol that again erroneously is associated with Israel and all that. Is it real, as Steve Coakley would say, as our sister Coakley would say? But it actually is a symbol of Asar, which is the upright star or the mirror. And the inverted mirror or triangle pyramid, whatever you want to call it, is Aset. And when you bring the two together, that was the S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S. This symbol is seen throughout DC. In fact, it's also in the Washington Monument, which again is also a symbol of Asar. We call it Cleopatra's Needle. We call it a Tekken or an obelisk. These are symbols that were found in Kemet first. And then America, all they did was to say, oh, we're going to make a white version of it. So we're going to make a white Washington Monument to depict the phallus of George Washington, because that's what the phallus was a symbol of. Is the obelisk was the symbol of Asar's phallus, the one piece that his wife Asar could not find once he was disassembled by his brother Set. Okay, so you got to look up the Assyrian drama to understand what that is. But again, these are our symbols, and we're none the wiser. It even gets even deeper than that, because here's Benjamin Banneker. Is that Benjamin Banneker had the brilliance to include the image of S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S in the city's layout. If I could lighten up this line, I had to make it dark so you could see it. But if I were to lighten up those lines, all those lines are streets, and they make up Asar in the front and Aset behind him. And you can see that there are, over the White House, you can see that there is an Ankh that is depicted right over. And again, this is all city design, all architecture that they do not want us to know about. If you look over the White House, you will notice that there is an Ankh over, and it's touching the National Mall. You're seeing Ankhs all over the place in the city's layout. Okay. And so, it says, yeah, I see it. Yep. It's there. Go ahead and get on Google Maps. And I think it's near, let me get the streets names real quick. So that'll help you to be able to find it. Trying to zoom up my laptop here. If you go near, this is near the Roosevelt Island, Theodore Roosevelt Island, the National Mall, Jefferson Memorial, where the White House area is. You'll see again, this is the White House where the leader of the land, the leader of the so-called world, they say, the greatest world in the world, or country in the world, is, you see the Asana set is laid out in the streets overlay. So our story is here in America. They just don't want us to know it, and we are not aware of it. Yes, and they have their crowns on. They absolutely do, right? That's crazy how they use us against us. They sure do. But once you know, and you know that this brother Benjamin Banneker is the one that did it, now we have examples. Now I can show my children, I can show my nephews, my nieces, I can show them, hey, we did these things. Here's an example. Here's the information to back it up. It isn't just a claim. It isn't just a 30-second, regurgitation from something I saw on TikTok. This information is here, and this is why there's a strong urge and interest for us to get into STEAM, to understand that this is our story, and this is how we can tell it and live it, right? The Dogon I mentioned, Benjamin Banneker being of that bloodline. Dogon is a tribe out of Mali, West Africa. They are of Kemetic descent, and they studied astronomy and math well before 3200 BC. That's over 5,000 years ago, y'all. All right. They knew that Sirius A is a bright star, which could be seen in the western sky through the naked eye, but you can't see Sirius B, but they were able to see Sirius B. And Sirius B is a very small star, but it's very heavy. And it wasn't until 1970 that Western astronomies were able to prove what they had already exposed. And it is said that Sirius B is actually where our spirits come from. That's a whole nother metaphysical deep conversation we're going to have in one of our episodes in the future. So again, we weren't all, you think about it, physically I'm from this planet, but spiritually, where do I come from? Where do I ascend and descend to? And that's what we're going to get into that. Agriculture, let's talk about the health. I mean, health is wealth, right? And so agriculture is part of STEAM, living, food. How did you eat? How did you survive? How did you sustain? A lot of us don't understand that the original the pharmacy, is a word that's played off of the original word of farm. You go to the pharmacy now to go get drugs for a cold, or antihistamine, or whatever, for congestion. But the original herb comes from the farm. All they did was put a pH on it, meaning the doctor that's going to lie to you, taking a Hippocratic oath, and tell you that this is the place you need to come and get when you got a runny nose, or you got allergies, or, no. If you know your story, if you know about how we lived before there was these mad scientists and white robes, or whatever, white jackets, trying to inject us with all type of things to see how we react, you know that you can go in your backyard, you can plant something in your backyard, get an herb. Talk to your aunt, your grandparents, if they're still around, and ask them, where did they go when they had a cold? Did they go to the store, or did they go in the backyard and pull something from the garden? Before there were the doctors, hospitals, and pharmacies, we healed ourselves with food. We didn't go and get a shot. We didn't go and get misdiagnosed, and go in there and talk about a health issue, but they never ask us what are we eating. And whereas foods are cheaper and healthier now, whereas foods are cheaper and healthier, pharmaceuticals, big pharma is a multi-billion company that needs patients. So even though they're claiming to make these foods that are more healthy, we're seeing bioengineered food now. You got to be aware of that. I saw a clip the other day that Whole Foods is now, and Whole Foods is supposed to be the healthiest of food stores out there, right? But now you got to look at the ingredients because they're changing the ingredients. I saw that there's bioengineered, some of the foods are being bioengineered now. So we're not even eating healthy whole foods anymore, unless you're trying to grow it yourself. And then there's that ban on, trying to stop people from growing. There's alleged things going through legislation trying to stop people from being able to grow their own food in their backyards. So again, it's something that we need to be thinking about, that part of it. But the other part of it is that we need to be thinking about, where else can we relocate to get these crackers off our back, right? So European colonialism has been happening from 1400 to roughly now. I mean, we can go back at least maybe even 6,000 years, but the version that we've been experiencing has going on for nearly 800 years, over 800 years, actually. I'm sorry, 600 years. So the point is that, they see something about us that they needed to come and get us, and they need to keep us to continue their reign of having power in this world, right? So the world is changing, and with that said, we need to too. I think that we need to use STEAM as a means of reclamation and survival. I think it's imperative that we know about STEAM and implement it into our lives. So with that said, I had to really think about, and I didn't come up with this. I got to give kudos to Brother Kidi Awadu for coming up with the ship's part of STEAM. We talked about STEAM and science, technology, engineering, art, and math. But oh yeah, and that's another part. Sister Kid just says, "Your plant and animal medicine. This was natural things that we did. That was part of our lives. Plant medicine. We did an episode about ayahuasca last week, or 2 weeks ago, so you can check that episode out. But the point is that with STEAM, I realized that we may have arrived here on slave ships, but we're going to be leaving here on our own built or rebuilt steamships. And ships to me now, acronym wise, means spirituality, holistic health, innovation, prosperity, and sustainability. So we're going to use these principles of STEAM and implement it with the spiritual component, with a holistic health approach, with the innovation that is creative genius that's already within us, because now we're seeing examples of what we've done before. When you know that you've done it before, then it's easier for you to realize I can do this again. And then we're going to use that to create the prosperity so that we can have a sense of accountability and independence and be able to perpetuate that through our bloodlines, which then is the sustainable part, right? So that's what steamships is to me. And I got to quote this ancestor. I'm sorry, she's still alive today. My bad. This sister that she said she used to be, I'm sorry, she did transition. Her name is Halana Wilson. Halana Wilson said this. She was the president of the Ladies Auxiliary to the Brotherhood of Sleeping Cars Porters from 1930 to 1956. She said that no race can be said to be another's equal that cannot or will not protect its own interest. This new order can be brought about once Black people acknowledge the wisdom in uniting forces and pooling funds for the common good of all. Other races have gained great wealth and great power by following this simple rule, and it is hoped someday that we will do the same. All right. So, I mean, profound statement that I think that we need to apply in real time because it is just as relevant. So this is all about sustainability, y'all. It's all about getting ourselves to a space where we have the ability to be maintained at a certain rate level for economic growth, long-term sustainability of whatever it is that we want to do, whatever our endeavors are. And we're going to avoid the depletion of the natural resources. That's important that we get back to understanding the value of what we have to maintain that ecological balance. And so we're not hurting the world, hurting the earth, and in the pursuit of global environmental sustainability. All right, so about to close out here. So with that said, I think one of the things that I have the most interest in is city planning. And we think about city planning, there's that question of, what are your needs to build a town? If we were to have to rebuild a town, what would that be? Um, and we would hint that it's food, clothing, and shelter. So roughly, you would need land, you would need the water source, you would need food source, and building materials. For be it bamboo, wood, whatever, weapons, tools, and also fire. But where things are going right now, the population growth that we're seeing is not going to be sustainable without the supply of these things. We need more electricity. That could be through hydro, because hydro is actually being seen as a replacement to solar, because solar still involves fracking, where you have to get the coal to create the electricity. Refrigeration, and we're going to need heat. We need water storage, distribution, so we need to be able to clean the water still, to both clean and cook with. Sewage as well, and we're going to need clothing and some sort of economy of trade. And again, most importantly, we're going to need food to sustain ourselves. But I think the solution really starts with financial literacy. Now you think, okay, well, how is this financial literacy has to tie into this? Because our liberation starts with mastering this. When you can manage the finances, then you can manage your time. Again, we don't have the time. We're too busy working. So who has the time to sit up here and take on a project of like something like this, or even a percentage of this project that's needed, because we got to work tomorrow, right? And so we talked about the management of time when we talked about last week about everyone and why everyone needs financial therapy. We do need that financial therapy for us to understand the value of time versus the dollar. And when we're able to do that, and we can spend how much we can stay in our life outside the working for someone, when they can actually let you go whenever they feel like it, right? Our jobs are, there's no tenure, there's no guarantee you're going to keep that job. And so we understand that we're set up to fail because we're running the wrong race. We're in the rat race. We're running with the rats trying to, make a dollar, opposed to understanding that eventually they're going to chew you up and spit you out, and you're going to have to hope that you have enough to live off of, opposed to using this time also to learn about sustainability practices, be it finances, be it farming, what all those things that I mentioned in STEAM. So this is why I offer the things that I do with my virtual online course, where you can take my financial ed course for adults, and this basically will get you on pace to learning how to live off your savings and investments, and eliminating the anxiety of ultimately job and wage loss. Okay, so you can go to cryptowokemovement.com. That will give you the information that you are looking for to get you there. And I have a few more things I want to show you, and then we're going to close out. Hope that you found tonight was pretty interesting. If you have not read yet my book, Who is the Boule? Apocalypse and Intergenerational Wealth Planning. This book actually goes into also financial education, because again, this is about freeing our time up. When our time is freed up, then we can chart a better plan for our future and for our bloodline's future. And I also have this, what I showed with you tonight. I have a full class on this, so I welcome you to take this virtual online class. I actually have a course that is available for you. Currently we're running a summer workshop program where you can have up to 4 people for one price to take this course or my 3 other courses. They can choose to take this all together or take one of the other 3. And this is something that I think would be very advantageous for us to know. So if you want to, you can scan this QR code to get further details about the course. And I also want to share with you that I did this course with some students over the past year, and I enjoyed it so much that in the end we had a an appreciation, a STEM appreciation day. And in this STEM appreciation day, I asked each of the students to do a presentation about what they learned in STEAM, and either a poem, or they could do a rhyme or whatever, right? So they did a rhyme, and I was like, okay, y'all gonna do that. I'm inspired to do one too. So what I'm gonna do right now, and then we're gonna be done for the night. I want to play my version of what I contributed. It's a short rhyme, right? Now I just want y'all to know how vulnerable I'm making myself. I'm not an MC. I love hip hop, love music. I can dance my ass off. I can do the beats or whatever, but I cannot spit. I'm not gonna say I'm a wordsmith. I'm a wordsmith writing, but I'm not the type of person that can go out there and get on the mic, right? So so I'm going to play what I contributed, and please, I'm not asking for 5 mics. I know I'm not 5 mics. I'm not gonna be no unsigned hype, but I did want to share this with you all. This is how me being vulnerable. But I want to show you what I contributed, and please, read the captions in this piece, because this is how I'm showing my contribution and respect for STEAM and how important and vital it is for our future. So here it is. Check it out. World premiere. Peace to all my From Slave Ships to Steamships fam. This is a little something I'm stepping out of my comfort zone to do, but I was so inspired by working with this amazing youth that I'm gonna step out of my comfort zone and do something, a little something. You know what I mean? So feel me on this. Stem from the brainstem, focus on remembering from days of antiquity, aka vocabulary. Think about black, not African American. The greatest unknown is the mystery of melanin. Or mystery of now, masculine to feminine. It's all a diversion, keep us in predicament. Here's the gem, humanity begins with the black woman, black men, and children. Not from the rib of a fake Adam, but from a time well before them. But Urugu's focus is to race our story, going from gods to global inventory, using propaganda with a white Santa, holding hostage his contributions with no Miranda, agitated to make unrelated. The African origin should not be debated, or heads sit and listen to the preachers preach. I only debate my equals, all the others I teach. They came for us because of melanin, shipped across the seas and started selling us. And then we forgot that we forgot a lot of ancient thought. It's why we're at where we're at, and we're taught what we're taught. Our ancestors knew this, to not know the sin. So they wrote our legacy in limestone or stone. Proof of Lucy's 3 million old bones. Knew the mirror was not a tomb, but a pathway back to the Sahu. So you know you embody the spirit of Heru. From slave ships to steamships is our collective mission. Sand cover as a base, we no longer dissing. And while I try to cover the stories of our mother, which learned in this class, future come from our past. From antiquity we see with spirituality, holistic prosperity, innovation and sustainability. From 2023 till infinity, we will resurrect our divinity.
Discover the world of STEAM with S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S Ishangi's engaging online course. From slave ships to steamships. STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, fields that drive innovation and creativity. Perfect for families age 13 to 75. This course brings these disciplines to life through history. Hands-on projects, interactive lessons, and real-world applications. You'll explore robotics, coding, art integration, and more, all from the comfort of your home. Sign up today and reignite the creative genius inside for every generation. Visit CryptoWokeMovement.com for details.
Yo, so yeah, that was me being raw. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, it was just something that I wanted to share with you all, because I really, I believe that we need to step out of our comfort zone and give thanks to S.T.E.A.M.S.H.I.P.S. Is, we need to be able to share our story with our people and do it in an innovative way, using this technology and making it attractive, especially to our youth, but especially to even us, us old heads that are still out here, that are still in, again, the last slide that I had wanted, that I was showing you, let me just bring it up again here, is it's very important, is that I talked about at the beginning, the two most important days in a person's life is the day they are born and the day that they understand why they're born. Now that you know, what will you do? Now that we are in a space where we know that, we come from antiquity, but we also have access to showing and learning and getting familiarized with ourselves, so that we can now have the confidence and courage to step up to the plate. Our ancestors have been beckoning us to wake up. for our future, to resurrect what we haven't had. So, it comes down to those that know now. Let's not be those people that are so in love with our past that we desire not to resurrect it. That's something that I really go to bed pretty much every night about thinking is what can I do to manifest an inkling, be it a percentage, if not 100% or 10%. What can I do to contribute to the resurrection of our story? Because it's there waiting for us, and no mystery God, no one's going to come and fly out of the heavens and bring it to us. We have to go and get it ourselves. So that is the thing that I think is something I hope that you are aspiring and felt from tonight. If you did feel tonight's episode was fruitful, I give thanks for you for still staying in time with me tonight and every night that I'm on. If you have not already, please like. If you did like it, I'm not forcing you to, but if you felt it was worthy of that like, I really appreciate it. And also, if you feel like and you want to contribute any dollar donation, you can send it to my Cash App. It could be $1, it could be 50 cents, it could be $25, whatever it is that you feel to help me keep the channel going. I welcome that. I am in deep gratitude for that because this is what helps me keep doing what I'm doing, because this is a love of the learning and reconnecting with our folk. So tomorrow we're going to be on again. I'm flirting with well, we have the topic is going to be the story of two Americas and the monetary system, the creation of the monetary system. So we're going to talk about that. And Thursday we're going to be talking about health and talking about wow, why am I forgetting the name of it's called right now? Uh, oh my God, why is it getting a brain fart? So much information. But we're going to be talking about not alchemy. God, man, this is bugging me out. I have to go back and look at this what this is because I already said I was going to say it. So please give me a second here. I done forgot what Thursday's show is going to be, and that ain't even right. Let me go pull it up. This is a brain fart. It happens, y'all. It happens. Give me 1 second here to pull it up so that I can close out for the night. Thursday, we will be talking about the cheat code to losing weight and living healthier. So we're going to talk about autophagy. We'll talk about intermittent fasting, etc. Okay. So yeah, I give thanks for you all for tuning in tonight. Share this with folks that you think might like this, that might feel this, might learn from this. Please feel free to do that. And I look forward to seeing you all later on tomorrow. So bless up to everyone. I'm going to play one last clip for you and then we can close it out. 1 second. Oops. 1 second. Boom.
This summer, unlock your potential with our summer workshop. Join our dynamic online courses, designed for everyone aged 13 to 75, starting June 1st through August 3rd with Mbwe Ishangi of the Crypto-Woke Financial Sustainability Movement. Dive into financial education for adults or gear up for success with financial education for student athletes. Teens and young adults can build their financial future, and everyone can explore the wonders of S.T.E.A.M. For just $149.99, you get access and can invite 3 friends or family members to join you or choose their own course. That's for people for one low price. Workshops start June 1st and run through August 3rd. Sign up now and invest in your future.
All right, I ain't gonna hold you all much longer. Thank you again for tuning in tonight. I look forward to seeing you all in the next episode. Have a blessed evening. Continue to prosper, continue to learn, continue to share, and I will see you tomorrow. Bless up.